We should see this issue in two parts actually. One is the ceasefire on the line of control, and one is the terrorist activities which are there. Now, as far as the ceasefire is concerned, there was an official agreement right from understanding. I won't even call it an agreement. From 2003, there was nothing in writing, there was nothing which was signed that we will have a ceasefire on the LC. But from 2003, initially it was successful, but by and by the firing only increased. And we reached a stage in the last few years, 2016, 17, right up to 20, where the violations were in the thousands, 3,000 a year, 4,000 a year. So obviously there was no point of having such a loose kind of understanding. And these violations were not helping anyone. Especially it was not contributing to peace and development. It was causing a lot of hardship to the civilian population on either side. And they were not able to pursue their livelihoods without any fear of untoward consequences. So I think it was a very conscious decision that we need to restart or re-honor that old ceasefire understanding which was there. And therefore we decided that we will again have an agreement, and that is how on 25th of February the joint statement was issued. And having issued that, I'm very happy to state that in the month of March there has been peace and quiet on the LC. There has been no major violation of the ceasefire. An odd incident has taken place where maybe 1 or 2 rounds have been fired, but more or less the ceasefire is holding. I'm quite confident that at least the ceasefire part will succeed in the times to come. But the other side, as you were asking, is the terrorism side. Now the terror camps and infrastructure still exist on the other side of the LC. Now for terrorism to come down or incidents of terrorist related activities to come down, obviously those camps also on the other side have to get dismantled. And it is only when the snows melt will we come to know how serious Pakistan is about dismantling this terror infrastructure and sending or putting people across. But we also have some of the local terrorists who increasingly feel marginalized. And in the recent past, these 1 or 2 acts which have taken place, whether attack on the sweet shop or the attack on the local councillors, these are just acts of desperation on their part when they see the way the normalcy is returning. In fact, this year during the winter in Gulmarg, there were so many tourists, it was just like normalcy. And a room which is normally available for 2,000 or 3,000 rupees was going for 15,000 rupees. That is the kind of rush which was there. That is the kind of normalcy which was there. So obviously they are trying to spoil the atmosphere by these random acts of terror. As yet there are no concrete signs of any reduction in this kind of infrastructure or the terrorists. But the fact that there have been no major attempts to infiltrate across the LC over the last 1 month is indicative of at least some change at the ground level. So we'll have to see now, even after the snows melt and the passes open up, the coming summers, whether this situation persists. And that will be actually the true indicator of their intentions.
And sir, talking about the internal security situation in Jammu and Kashmir, how do you look at it in the backdrop of increase in terrorist recruitment and radicalization of youth in the valley?
No, as I just mentioned, the cases of terrorism and terrorist-related incidents which have occurred, the strikes on a CRPF patrolling party or on the local councillors, these are just attempts by them to stay relevant, to stay in the limelight. But by and large, actually the situation has seen a very great improvement. And this is borne out by the facts and figures on ground, as I mentioned about the Gulmarg and the tourist inflows. So it has been very good. But yes, incidents like this will happen. there are youth who are still joining the terrorist ranks, and our endeavor is to wean these misguided youth away from this wrong path that they're taking, and that is the focus. We are always alive to this threat of new recruitment, and we always try our best to prevent the youth from joining the militant ranks. And nothing would make us happier or makes us happier when somebody who has joined or about to join actually renounces that path and comes back to the mainstream and to our fold. That makes us much more happy. Well, after the 9th round of the Corps Commander level talks, we had agreed upon a phased disengagement from these friction areas. And as per that, from 10th February onwards, the disengagement started. And it went according to the plan, where from the north and south bank of Pengangso, as well as from the Kailash range, people have gone back to their nearest permanent locations. And thereby the face-to-face deployment which was there, and which, because of which there could have been chances of miscalculation, that has now receded. So we have gone back, and as a result of that, now there is relative peace and tranquility in the LAC. No, I think firstly, we have not lost out on any territory. We are where we were before this whole thing started. But as a result of this agreement, it has been reached on the principle of mutual and equal security. So I think that should be the way we look at this whole disengagement process, that it serves the interests of both countries to have a very stable LAC and with less chances of any confrontation taking place. That should be the larger viewpoint that we take.
And Defsan, what's the situation?
Yeah, we are approaching this whole issue in a step-by-step manner. So the initial step was, of course, the disengagement, which I've just talked about. So future rounds of talks will continue, and I'm sure that through these talks we will be able to narrow down our differences and arrive at a acceptable solution, once again based on mutual and equal security, and which is acceptable to both sides, and only when it is acceptable to both sides will it actually succeed. So we will keep working at it.